So in our previous section, we had seen that the financial plan was kind of constructed, and there was a little bit of an issue with this gentleman in terms of what is the kind of tenure of loan that was to be taken, and plus there was a negative net investment value that was coming for some of the years in between, especially after goals 2 and 3 got materialized, right? So we have to take care of these. We also have to probably take care of the fact that that the loan essentially is for not 15 years but 20 years, and we also have to take care of the fact that towards the end the savings turn negative. We don't want them to be negative at the end of it, right? So net investments at the end of the year, we don't want them to be negative. First things first, to kind of take care of our movements of what we are doing, let's freeze the panes here so that when we move up, we have these headers clearly established for us. Now, let's take the problems one by one. Problem one is that some of these data points are going out of order here. So there are 2 or 3 solutions to this. One of the solutions is that a loan is taken here for maybe education purposes or whatever. But typically, if you take a loan here, that loan is likely to be a, let's say, a personal loan. Right now, personal loan rates are typically greater than home loan rates. Right? So there are 2 ways you can tackle this problem. You can take a loan here, and let's assume for the time being that the same interest rate applies there. Or you could take an extra home loan here rather than taking a 50-50 breakup. You could ensure that the breakup is different. At this point of time, we are not touching the returns expectation. Technically, we could assume that this may be higher as well, but to make this higher, you will have to increase the asset allocation towards risky assets. And we'll see if we can do that without touching the returns portion, just by probably taking a few loans. And are we still able to kind of manage things well? Right? So we will look at those data points as we go along. Let's take them one by one. Let's take case one where a loan is taken here. So what we will do is we will introduce another row here called loan repayment 2, right? And we'll call this loan repayment 2, and the summation that will obviously become, will add this. Let's say at this point, half of this, or roughly 40, is taken as a loan, right? If 40 is taken as a loan, and we'll assume that this 40 also works out at 10% rate, and let's say for the time being, loan tenure 2 is also 15 years, and we have a loan of 10% that has come in, right? So these are the 2 items that come in for loan 1 and loan 2. Let's calculate PMT. That's going to be the rate at 10%, tenure at 15 years, and negative of this value is going to be my PMT. That's 5.26. I'm assuming a 15-year loan, which means this 5.26 should continue for another 15 years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and another 5 years below this. Correct? Which essentially means that my savings calculation changes to incorporate this as well, right? And then in certain years, the savings would be dramatically lower. So let's take it higher, right? So that's what happens, and we still see that there is a minor issue here in terms of another 17 lakhs falling short in spite of this happening, right? So now what can be done? The other thing that could be done is you could increase the loan tenure for the home loan. We had earlier asked the question whether a loan tenure of 15 years is feasible. Now let's say we say rather than increasing the loan amount, why don't we just increase this tenure to 20 years, and let's see what happens. We realize that if we are able to do this calculation, then there is only 1 year where there is a challenge that is happening. So we can take one loan here, and we can take a 20-year loan there, which basically brings in our calculations to close to zero. And I think this should get handled towards the end, possibly when we change the return a little bit. So it's only about a lakh here or there, and we can practically increase about 2 lakhs odd here, and that will solve the problem if we want really to do that, right? So with a 42 lakh loan, 10% 15-year tenure, and a 20-year home loan, which is 10% 20-year tenure, this problem could be solved. That's one option that could be taken care of, right? Another option is that instead of 50%, let's say we take 75% of home loans here. So we increase this amount to something like 95, right? So let's change this to 95 and let's remove this altogether. What happens? We find that there is one particular year where there is a problem of 11 lakhs, but with a 95 lakh loan here, practically we have sorted out the problem to a large extent, right? Obviously, there's one small issue that we have not yet encountered yet, which is not taken care of yet, is that if this is a 20-year loan, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have another 5 years left here, so we need to drag it down till here. And that's fine because towards the end there are enough savings, but there's 1 year which falls short. So we could increase the loan amount here and just take maybe a 10 lakh kind of a loan here, and we kind of are sorted out barring this 1 year in between, which is the 48th year where this person falls short of some money. If required, they'll take a loan at that point of time. Maybe things get delayed a little bit here or there, but broadly, let's assume we remove this. Then this is the second solution to the problem, whereby we are saying that 95 lakhs of home loan taken should sort out the problem, barring 1 year, which is the 48th year. And if required, we'll probably take a loan at this stage, which is a quick withdrawal at this stage, and we should be able to sort out the problem, right? So that's broadly in terms of the two broad solutions that are available in terms of what can be done to the data, right? Now let's move ahead and try and sort out the problem at the end, which is net investments at the end of the tenure are working out to 2881 negative. Negative 28 crore is the number that is coming, and we don't want that to happen. The problem compounds itself post here. So if we increase the returns, then we should be able to take this down to positive. So let's just do a brute force approach. Let's put in 11% and see what happens. It solves itself a little bit. Let's put 12 and see what happens. We see a positive number, right? If I put 11.5, we still see a negative number. So somewhere between 11.5 and 12 is where this number would basically come in. What is that number is what we have to calculate now. Now, how do we calculate it? If you remember, we had seen the usage of something called as goal seek. So let's introduce goal seek again. We go and click on data. Click on data. What if analysis? Click on this tab called goal seek. Now what do I have to set? I have to set the final net investments value to, let's say, 0, right? So at the end of the 80th year, I have basically used up everything by changing the cell expected returns, correct? So we have to take this value to 0 by changing the cell expected returns. Let's see what solution we get. And yes, at 11.8%, we are able to kind of match this entire game, and we end up with 0 money. And obviously at 11.8%, you will see that you never run out of money as well. In fact, you could probably take down the loan amount and see what happens if we take a 64 lakh loan. And we're broadly fine even with that, assuming that this rate works out. Only one of the years we need about 80,000 bucks extra. Other than that, we are broadly fine in terms of our 64 lakh loan. For now, we'll put a loan of 95 lakhs. We'll see if we can put a tenure of 15 years to this. And yes, the tenure of 15 years suffices. We can at a later point of time take a decision if we want to kind of increase the tenure to 20 years. Now, why would a tenure of 15 years suffice? If you take a tenure of 20 years, look at the amount that is paid over a 20-year period. If you look at the sum of all these, 11 every year, you will note that this works out to 223, correct? If I change this to 15 years, I have to remove this and put this as 15 years. You will see that over a 15-year period, the amount paid is considerably lesser, 187. So you're saving about 36 lakhs over this period. So ideally, the smaller the tenure, the less interest you end up paying. So if we can take a 95 lakh loan for 15 years, we are fine at an 11.8% kind of a return. If required at a later stage, we'll see if we want to extend the tenure again, right? If you want to be absolutely comfortable, we can keep this number at 20 and then take our discussion based on that. But it at 11.8%, it solves our problem almost completely. Just that if we have a 15-year loan, at the last year, we again go back to kind of sort of negative number. We may want to kind of get an exact set data here as well. There's obviously a little bit of back and forth. We want to set this to 0 by changing cell this one, and 11.89% is what solves our problem, right? So 11.89% with a 15-year loan solves our problem in terms of what should be the investment return. And the loan has to be 95 lakhs, which is about 1/3 of the total amount, 3/4 of the total amount that is being used for buying the home. Everything else is kind of manageable in terms of the numbers that we see here, right? So that's the broad solution to this as we look at it at this point of time. Now we have two problems to solve. Problem one is what should be the insurance level that, let's say, this person should be taking at this age if you were to take it today. And two, how do you actually get this 11.89% return, right? So these are the two problems that we are going to sort out now in our subsequent sections.